It's time now to go around the country, get the latest recruiting intel. You're going to hear from national recruiting analysts Tom Loy, Brandon Huffman, and Allen Trieu. So here's Tom to start off the recruiting roundup.
Thanks, Emily. Let's dive into the recruitment of Greensboro, North Carolina, Grimsley High, five-star quarterback Faizon Brandon. He has an August 3rd commitment date set, and he's going to do that live with 24/7 Sports. Let's look at the finalists. You got Alabama, Tennessee, NC State, and LSU. This is the number one player in the class of 2026. He could take his time and pretty much go anywhere he wants to go, and yet he's narrowed it down and he's ready to make a decision. My 24/7 Sports crystal ball remains on the Tennessee Volunteers. Now, this has been back and forth and kind of close between them and the Crimson Tide. LSU is also in play, but he's fresh off another trip to Knoxville. And to be completely honest, I just can't see Josh Heupel and his staff missing out on the elite talent. So I fully expect come August 3rd, Faizon Brandon commits to Tennessee. Let's move on to Georgia, because I want to hear about the latest with Josh Petty, five-star offensive tackle out of Roswell, Georgia, Fellowship Christian School. He has a commitment date set for August 12th. Now, the finalists are kind of up in the air. You definitely have Florida State, Georgia Tech, Ohio State, Stanford, and Tennessee in the mix. This is the number 14 overall player in the class of 2025, according to 24/7 Sports. Now, the latest buzz has had Florida State trending in the right direction, but for me, I'm really close to putting in a crystal ball pick for Georgia Tech. I feel like that staff has done an excellent job with this process. I feel like there's some pull to try to keep him close to home, and I know he's connecting really well with the guys in that locker room. So don't be surprised if things start swinging in favor of the Yellow Jackets. The last one I want to talk about is Cederian Morgan, one of the top overall players in the class of 2026. He's out of Alexander City, Alabama, and he goes to Benjamin Russell High School. Auburn, Alabama, Ohio State. Those are pretty much the teams at the highest for him, the top contenders, if you will. Growing up, he really wanted to go to Alabama. That was the dream offer. But recently, especially after this past weekend, Auburn is trending in the right direction. They've even added some crystal ball picks. My crystal ball pick still is on the Crimson Tide, but this is a back and forth two-way race. I think that when push comes to shove and Morgan wants to make a final decision, I think he's going to end up having a hat for Alabama and a hat for Auburn on the table. Again, don't rule out Ohio State. He loves everything about that school and everything Brian Hartline is doing, but I think the pull to keep the number 20 overall player in the country in state is strong enough. So again, my pick is on the Tide. Other picks are on the Tigers. Long way to go. It's going to be a great battle. Now let's head west to hear from Brandon Huffman.
Thanks, Tom. Well, this past weekend, Oregon hosted their SNL Saturday Night Live camp inside Autzen Stadium. With the NCAA going to a completely dead July in 2025, this was the Ducks' last chance to host their summer event in the month of July. They had some of the best players in the country there, including the number 2 player in 2026, Chris Henry Jr. out of Mater Dei High School in Santa Ana. Now, Henry actually spent this weekend celebrating his one-year commitment to Ohio State by being at Oregon. The Ducks had long been a threat to the Buckeyes. If there was ever a school that could really be a thorn in the side of Ohio State for Henry, it has been Oregon. He's been saying for months that Oregon has been recruiting him the hardest outside of Ohio State. He was also supposed to visit LSU earlier in the week, but Oregon got him on campus and got him to work out with Junior Adams at Saturday Night Live. Now, he wasn't the only top 100 player committed to another school that Oregon was able to host this weekend. Brandon Lockhart, another top 100 player in the 2026 class out of Loyola High School in Los Angeles, has been committed to USC for quite some time, but he committed back when Dante Williams was the defensive backs coach for the Trojans. Since then, Dante Williams has gone on to Georgia. Lockhart remains committed to USC, but Oregon has been trying with him. Chris Hampton, Tosh Lapoy, and Dan Lanning have all been putting their hooks into Brandon Lockhart to try to get him to flip as well. We've seen what Oregon has been able to do with long-standing commits to other schools and then flipping them late. Now they're trying to get in on a couple of guys that won't even sign for another year, but are both heavily coveted, not just by the schools they're committed to, but by national programs. So it was big this weekend for Oregon to get both Henry and Lockhart on campus, especially coming on the heels of them getting a commitment from Cederian Ball, the 2026 running back, who's the number 2 back in the country in his class. Now, for more recruiting information, we go to our guy, Allen Trieu.
Now, the big upcoming commitment in the Midwest is that of five-star safety Trey McNutt. We've been breaking down his recruitment quite frequently here, as he's one of the top and few uncommitted 2025s in the Midwest. He delayed his decision in order to get another visit into Texas A&M and then to Oregon. Oregon was the leader going into those visits. I believe coming out of that, they remain the team to beat. I believe he will likely end up choosing the Ducks unless something changes this week. They got the last at-bat as he went to A&M first and then finished off his July visits out in Eugene. They have a great plan for him. I think he sees a great fit there. I think he has a great relationship with the coaching staff. And the Ducks have simply done an outstanding job whenever they've been able to get recruits on campus. And they've now had him on campus twice in the last 2 months. So I think when looking at that secondary class, he fits in extremely well with the Dorian Brews and the other defensive backs that they've picked up. And I believe they will add another in Trey McNutt. Although, as I've said in the past, I expect other schools like A&M, Ohio State, Florida, and others to continue recruiting him right until he signs on the dotted line. Now, as I mentioned, there are very few uncommitted 2025s in the Midwest. I could see another one coming off the board soon in linebacker Will Hawthorne from the state of Iowa. He told me recently he doesn't have a decision date locked in yet, but is still expecting to make the call before the end of the month. Obviously, he's running out of time if he's going to get it in before August begins. It comes down to two schools, Nebraska and Iowa State. Iowa State's the in-state school. They had offered earlier and built a strong relationship with him, but Nebraska has come in and really made a strong play. I felt like it was the Cyclones' recruitment to lose throughout. I think Nebraska has now made things extremely interesting, which is why I believe this decision has been delayed a little bit as well. He had originally talked about potentially making a decision in early July. We're now reaching the end of the month, and he still has not announced a commitment. So I think Nebraska is giving him something to think about, while Iowa State has been there for longer. We're moving into 2026 recruiting quite a bit in the Midwest as well, with several big barbecues and junior days happening over the weekend. Michigan had one and offered in-state tight end Lincoln Keys, one of the top 2026s, and what is really a loaded tight end class in the state of Michigan and the Midwest. Keys is from not too far away at Saline, and so a lot of folks expect the Wolverines to be the school he chooses and maybe soon. However, I think he's going to wait his decision out, go through the season, and I don't think it's a slam dunk for Michigan, even though he admits he grew up a Michigan fan. Georgia offered earlier in the summer, Ohio State's offered, Michigan State has offered. Those are all schools he says he hopes to get to in the fall for games. He also has offers from other schools in the region and from around the country that I expect he may try to get to in the offseason. So right now, Michigan's primary competition comes from the Spartans, the Buckeyes, and Georgia is the team from out of region to watch. He did admit to going to a lot of Michigan games growing up. They're very close by. They use the tight end. He has a great relationship with position coach Steve Kasula. So a lot of things going for Michigan in that recruitment, but I do not believe it's going to be just the layup for Michigan. And I do expect Lincoln Keys to take his time in that recruitment.
Thank you all so much. We have the best recruiting team there is, so check out more of their work at 247sports.com. You've got VIP info, recruiting rankings, and exclusive coverage. Find it all at 247sports.com.